Greetings and salutations, everybody. This is Sidewinder for Community Starcraft 2, bringing you another random community replay that I did download, and I'm obviously now casting. This is going to be a Zerg versus Terran. The Terran player is Nagato, who is spawning down here in the bottom left of Xel'Naga Caverns, and he's going to be fighting FluidTek, who is up here in the top right, spawning as the Teal Zerg. This is obviously not on ladder, considering it is not red versus blue, it's red versus teal. So I don't know if this was from a friendly custom or a tournament or something like that, but this is just a random replay that I downloaded off of some replay sharing sites. And I will do this rather frequently on this channel. This is kind of the backbone of this channel. It is Community StarCraft 2. We examine issues among the community. We also cast replays from community members. And if you have your own replay, just post it to one of these StarCraft 2 replay file sharing sites and send me the link. I will cast it, and if it is a good game, I will post it up here. Now, we'll just jump right into this game. Nagato is actually putting up a supply depot in the position indicating he's going to be putting down 2 barracks. There's probably going to be a barracks here and probably a barracks right here, opening 2 racks. This is going to be providing him some very early aggression. He's just going to be flooding out Marines to his opponent's base, trying to break him with Marines if he can. And obviously Zerg, being the reactionary race that they are going to need to react to this. We do see the Zerg player saving up his minerals a little bit. He is on 15 supply, so you would imagine for him to drop that hatchery first. And no, just as he says that, I'm wrong. He's throwing down an extractor. So we're likely going to see something more along the lines of speed Zerglings. And just checking up in the APM tab, these players are at a relatively high APM. The Zerg player, not so much in the early game, but not everyone plays it at super high APM at the beginning of the game, unlike people you will see that just spam. So I'd imagine this replay is probably from high diamond or masters. So getting back into this game, we do see that second barracks coming down for Nagato, and he's probably just going to be putting out a whole bunch of Marines and pressure his opponent. A lot of Terran players fighting Zerg do like to put down a bunker here to harass the expansion, probably prevent it from going down if they can help it, or kill off a whole bunch of workers that are going to be forced to be pulled to deal with this. But FluidTek is not taking the bait. He's just playing very safe with the spawning pool first, likely into speed Zerglings as soon as he gets this 100 gas. We'll see how he reacts to it. Checking the production tab, he is putting out just an extra drone, but he does have minerals floating. He does start some Zerglings and a queen, so these Zerglings are likely to be for map control and to ward off any sort of SCV trying to build a bunker. So checking back in the Terran main, there is a Zerg trying to gas steal. Well, not trying to, he successfully is. For those of you that have not really seen any sort of gas stealing play, the reason you're going to want to do it is to keep your Terran player off of 2 gas as long as you can, and secondarily, or perhaps primarily, to get advanced scouting information beyond just the first Marine. If you cancel this and then keep rebuilding it, you're losing a little bit of resources by doing that, but you're seeing a large amount of things that are going on. And instead of pressuring with these 2 barracks, he is going to be throwing down a command center. So this could be in response to FluidTek actually scouting this 2 racks and transitioning out of it quicker than a Zerg would typically expect. So pretty smart play, although Nagato is supply blocked, so he's not going to be able to reinforce this army like he would want to, which is why he's going to bring the rally points back to his base as opposed to all those other Marines. We do see FluidTek starting the expansion, and I don't know if that prompted a move out from Nagato. I doubt it, because I'm pretty sure that that SCV got killed, and yes, he does not see that, as we can see on the mini-map and now on the main map. FluidTek also supply capped here, so he does have an Overlord in production, almost done. And these Marines are going to bug the crap out of this expansion. Coming up here, I don't see any Zerglings actually on the field trying to deal with this, but he is producing a whole bunch of them. He needs to be careful, though, because these Marines will likely fall back to this little choke and deal with these Zerglings. But nice flank here. He is going to lose these Zerglings, but he is going to put a lot of these Marines in the amber and deal with them fairly easily. He's still going to likely have to cancel this expansion unless these Zerglings can really get in here and do some work. That expansion is going to go into cancel, so that is very good work by Nagato. Canceling that is devastating because that hatchery was almost finished, but still not the worst thing that could have happened, because FluidTek could have just outright lost it, as opposed to canceling and rebuilding immediately afterward, only losing 75 minerals instead of losing the full 300. Expansion is now done, or rather the command center is now done for Nagato. Checking on the production tab, we do see 2 engineering bays going down, so I don't know if Nagato is planning on sticking with sort of a mass bio against Zerg, which is a little unusual considering Banelings clean up Marines so easily. but we will see what he makes of this. It can't signal anything other than just mass bio, so that's what I would typically expect from somebody showing this play. You would like to see FluidTek sacrifice this Overlord here pretty soon to get a scout off on his opponent. I don't believe he can see the command center. Oh, yes, he can. That's very, very good positioning of this Overlord to spot that command center. He's going to see exactly when it moves and drops on the actual expansion. But for now, he is just putting SCVs out, possibly fearing any sort of retaliation from that attack, since he did get all of his Marines cleaned up in that attack. We do see +1/+1 started along with Marine shields. So this is a really heavy Marine committal. I don't know if FluidTek had moved in with his Overlord, he would have scouted all these barracks in order to see that he was committing so hard, and the 2 engineering bases is definitely a huge tell to say he's going for mass bio and likely mass Marine, since there's only 1 tech lab spinning, likely for just typical upgrades. In response, we do see a Baneling's Nest coming down for FluidTek, so this is a great response to all these Marines. We'll see how these Banelings handle it. There's just a single spine crawler up, but the creep spreading has begun. We'll see how well he stays on top of it. The gold rocks are actually already knocked down. I do love this play. If you have Zerglings out, you don't want them just standing around. You do want them breaking down extra pathways so you can flank your opponent and setting up areas so that you can expand. We also see something a little unusual that I'm not sure how I missed it this long, but there is a hatchery that is a bit hidden over here on the right side. The Terran player is most likely not going to scout unless he sees something like an Overlord floating from this position or drones transferring into that expansion. Both of these rocks are about to be knocked down, so this Zerg player really staying active, and this is nice play to have this watchtower controlled by one of his Zerglings as opposed to a Marine, so he can transfer workers over here without getting any sort of suspicion in return from the Terran player. Another good thing about what this Terran player is doing is he's putting down a barracks behind this little pathway so you can't roll in Banelings or Zerglings and just blow up all the workers on this mineral line. If you play Unzel Naga Carvins at all as any race other than Zerg, you need to really be aware of these weeds right here. There are weeds, even though they're kind of faded, considering there is a unit right there spotting on the other side, but you can't see through those weeds. So there's an easy pathway to just roll up like 6 or 8 Banelings and just kaboom, blow up this whole mineral line. So if you're playing as a race other than Zerg against Zerg, so if you're playing as Terran or Protoss versus Zerg, you will want to block off this pathway so that stuff can't just run by and kill your workers for really cheap. Interesting bunker placements. I do kind of like it in some sense, and I also don't like it in another sense. This bunker, if there were ranged units out, could hit it without any sort of support, but it is good in the sense that there's going to be a gauntlet for Zerglings and Banelings to have to run through if they're trying to just bypass this defense. Checking back into the Zergman, we do see a infestation pit coming down, and we'll see if he's just using this to bounce off of Hive Tech or to actually put out infestors. Infestors, after receiving that buff in patch 1.3.3, are really popular and they're very powerful, so either one would not surprise me. Quickly taking a look at the income tab, the Zerg player is only up by 6 workers, which is a little unusual. You would typically see a Zerg, really maxing out his drones as soon as possible if he has experienced such little pressure. Now I know that hatchery did get knocked down, but he is also putting some units out on the field. 16 Zerglings, some Queens, Overlords. In an ideal situation, you would have a whole bunch more drones than just this number by this stage of the game, and especially if your opponent is just trailing you by only a few workers. So he's likely just investing a lot of this into tech as well, as we see a huge laundry list of tech coming down. We see Burrow, Centrifugal Hooks for Baneling speed, Pathogen Glance, which means he's likely going to be putting out infestors. I don't know why else you would research that upgrade. Melee attacks, Banelings are now being morphed. Checking back into the Terran main, Stim is actually not even started, or rather not even done until now. It's really late for Stim, but he does already have shields, so it kind of seems like you do need to get one or the other at some point on these Marines. Another expansion coming down for the Terran player. Both of them just kind of sitting back, waiting for the time that they like to strike. Small force here for the Zerg. Obviously, you don't need to produce any army units unless you do detect your opponent moving out. And if you float some minerals, or rather resources here, as a Zerg player, you're going to be able to recover from any sort of pressure rather quickly. Now, infestors are on the way. Typically, if you watch higher level players play, right, higher than masters, right, you're not going to get much higher than that. But if you do see higher level players play, such as pros, that go for infestors, they do try to time their infestors to start and then finish just as the pathogen glands finish, so that they spawn with 75 energy and they're on the field as soon as possible. Meanwhile, in the Terran main, huge block of supply depots going down. Cool placement here in the base, really thinking ahead to block off any sort of advancement from any sort of attempts at Baneling Bust. You can just raise all these supply depots. You will obviously lose a bunch of them, but it's better than losing your workers or any other tech. So cool play. You don't see this very often from Terran players against Zerg to kind of have their defenses kind of morph and mutate into something better. Uh-oh, here we go. Ultralisk Cavern coming down for the Zerg player and a Spire. So this is really weird. That you don't usually see tech paths opening this wide for Zerg. Terran player just now moving out to destroy his own rocks. Again, a huge laundry list of upgrades going on. Adrenal glands are for those Zerglings so that they attack a lot faster than their default speed and can really chew through some forces. With some Ultralisk backing this and some Infestors landing Fungal Growth on there like we just see. You're going to be doing a ton of damage. Look at this attack here, very nicely planned out. He does get Infestors on one side and Fungal Growth and come in here and rolling with the Banelings. All these Marines in the red. Very cool attack there, really even caught me by surprise. Holy cow, a bunch of expansions coming up here. There's 1, 2 is almost done, and a third on this side. So this Zerg is just taking over the map. This is an odd tempo that the Zerg player is on. He has had very little forces on the field, but these forces are going to be effective for him since he has so many upgrades. Once the Ultralisk pop, it's going to be very, very interesting to see if this Terran player can hold him off. I'm actually a little worried for him, considering his army is so Marine heavy, and considering that the Banelings are going to be at +3 very soon, and 1 Baneling detonation will kill these Marines, assuming they stay on this 2 armor. 3 armor has not been started. Planetary Fortress going up at the gold. There is an Ultralisk on the way. Marines actually advancing forward here, landing some really big fungal growth and really chewing through those Marines with those Zerglings, who actually don't even have their adrenal glands done yet. They are now done. Chitinous plating on the way for the Ultralisks. But if you take a look at the units lost, you can see that the Terran player is trailing by just a little bit. Marines are not expensive per se, but if they're your only unit that you have out right now, you need to be really careful about using them this way. If you see a Zerg running up here, especially with Infestors or Banelings, you need to split your Marines as best as you can. Now, I know it's a lot harder than it seems, but if you can just move, bang, 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 and just split as quickly as you possibly can, you're going to reduce your losses by quite a bit. Checking the supply here, the Terran player is still ahead, 147 to 130, 129, jumping back and forth. He does throw down a quick scan right before, but he does waste a stim on his Marines. Ultralisk making his way in. He's going to take a little bit of damage there. Not very much, but considering the armor that he has on there, these Marines will be shooting paintballs at him. Only doing 3 shots per damage, or rather 3 damage per shot. Herpater I can stop. Checking back into this game. Getting a nice little surround here, but these Ultralisks are just wandering around, not getting a lot of damage off. Infested Terrans being barfed up by these Infestors. These Marines will actually likely clean this up. That was a very bad engagement angle from the Zerg player. We'll see if he can actually recover from this, considering that he dropped a lot of resources into that army and it did not do basically anything. And Nagato is really flying ahead in supply here, up by 32. These Infestors do not have enough for more fungal growth, so we'll see if we can actually scrape by and push this force off. We had the units lost tab up the whole time, and you can see that the Zerg player is way, way behind or ahead in resources lost. Being ahead in that is bad, so it just depends on how you use it. These Banelings might come out in time to clean this up. The Banelings do roll in and clean up those Marines. Wow, very well timed, but I don't know if the damage has already been done. The Terran player can kind of freely expand. If he could land some good fungal growth and have this Corruptor finish off these medvacs, that would be really helpful since Marines are so much better after being supported by medvacs. But we see these Marines are already back up and ready to go. They are now at 3-2.